Hello, this is Ventev Connected Voices. I'm Jared VanAllen, your host. Today with us we have Chris Jufer, and we're going to be talking about the VenFlex Mount. Hey Chris, how are you today?
Very well, Jared. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's a little bit dreary here in Utah today, but I think I'll make it through it. Hey Chris, you and I have known each other for what, 7 years now?
Yeah, probably close to it.
So for you, 7 years of pure misery, I'm sure.
Without question, yes.
Okay, good. At
Nothing
least
but bitter, pure misery.
I'm so glad we're in alignment on that, Chris. So, and we started working together 6 years ago, right? When I came over to Ventev, handling some of the accounts out of the West Coast, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So in that time, you've had a couple of different roles with Ventev, including product manager, as well as kind of handling some of the stuff out in the field. And today you manage the enclosure and mount line for Ventev. Now, I've met you in person a bunch of times, Chris, probably more than we can either count, right?
Absolutely.
How long have you been into bodybuilding?
I'm not, Jared. That's a curious question.
Then what is a VenFlex if it's not a new bodybuilder pose?
Well, a VenFlex is a new mount that we recently launched to support the majority of indoor access points out on the market.
Okay, that's quite a relief because I had a totally different Chris Jufer picture in my head. All right, so maybe we can talk about this a little bit. Where did you come up with this mount? And yes, I am familiar with it. Where did you come up with this? How did this start?
Certainly. So we had a customer who, quite candidly, buys access points by the truckload, right? And they have many different mounting scenarios throughout their facility. Some are in the warehousing, some are in carpeted office space, some are in carpeted office space where that have very tall ceilings, from aesthetic to ruggedized to conduit mount to all thread. So the challenge is the standard access point mounting plates. They're pretty limited as to what they can do. And if you want a unique mounting application, it usually is going to require a different product. And the problem is, when they buy, when they need one of something, they have to buy 5 or 10 of it. And quite honestly, it was becoming quite cumbersome managing that many SKUs, managing that much inventory for their procurement team.
Okay, what do you mean? Because there are other manufacturers that have kind of a simple mounting plate, right? So, I mean, show me what you mean by that, because I guess I'm not seeing how a mounting plate gets me to all those installation scenarios.
Certainly. So, with what I'm sharing on my screen is this is some images of our VenFlex mount. So what you're looking at here is really no different from what any standard access point mounting plate can do. Regardless of who the manufacturer is, their mounting plate is going to enable wall mounting and junction box mounting, and really our solution is going to offer the same thing, and that's really what you see here between a single gang, a dual gang, and a 4x4 junction box, right? So our solution, again, it still enables all three of these, just like the access point plates that are out on the market today. This next slide is
well. Wait, let me ask you a question on that past slide.
Please.
Is that all right, Chris?
Absolutely, of course slide? It is.
So I see a big ugly nut in the middle of there, or bolt in the middle of there. What is that?
So great question. That is actually a bolt that we incorporated into the mount to enable the access point to sit perpendicular to the floor and parallel to the wall. That was one of the requirements that this customer came to us, and we access points are mounted on walls parallel to the wall in many different applications. With what you see here, this solution it leverages what mimics a 15/16 inch T-bar, right? That's this strip that runs across there. And regardless of what T-bar mounting you're going to leverage, of course, every AP is going to include a T-bar mounting bracket or mounting clip. There's going to be a little bit of play, right? So when you rest it on the wall, the weight of the AP is going to want to pull it forward and have it dip down towards the wall, and that bolts in place to simply prevent the sagging of the access point.
Just like those little kind of bump stops on the hood of your car when you open it to make sure it's perfectly level when you shut your car hood. I get that. Thanks,
Yes,
Chris.
sir. Of course. Awesome. All right, now here is where everything begins to change from a standard access point mounting plate, right? So our solution enables customers to mount access points via hanging all thread. You can either leverage a single hanging all thread. We have a hole in the center to accommodate standard 3/8 inch all thread. You can also leverage either, two, one in each corner, or you can leverage all four to hang via all thread. Of course, that the concept there is to lower the height of the access point from the ceiling. It also leverages hanging conduit, right? So there's a hole in the center that can accommodate standard 3/4 inch hanging conduit. So with that said, this is a pretty common application I've seen in, when you're looking at grocery stores and when you're looking at, where you have tall ceilings and you need to lower the height of the access point. One thing that our solution brings to the table is the ability to be completely eclipsed by the footprint of the access point. So as a data point, the other alternative option when you're leveraging hanging conduit is to leverage this 4x4 junction box, which is, obviously it's a much thicker piece of equipment. And in most cases, it's going to have a lot of metal punches for knockout. So that's going to take away from the aesthetics of the environment. Whereas our solution, once the access point is in place, you're only going to see the conduit and the access point face. Everything else will be completely invisible.
So I can just paint it then to match the background of the facility that I'm hanging it in. That's pretty genius.
You certainly could. You certainly could, but in most cases, it won't even be visible from the ground.
Perfect. That's awesome. So, okay, I get that. I can hang it from a ceiling, and I can mount it to a junction box. And a 4x4 junction box is not the same as the 4x4 transfer case on your Ford F-150. So I got all that. All right. Then you said I could kind of mount any indoor AP kind of almost anywhere. That's a couple of them. What else is there?
Well, there's one application that we've seen many times over the past several years is the ability to mount an access point to a vaulted ceiling, right? So what we have here, the image on the left-hand side of the screen, Jared, is going to be our VenFlex mount that includes a swivel mount, right? So this enables you to mount it to a vaulted ceiling while keeping the access point in the horizontal plane. Again, it makes it easier to deploy, and it's a simple single solution regardless of the mounting method that's required for the application. One thing also that we've seen, Jared, is we've seen the advent of indoor access points containing integrated directional antennas. So with that said, this solution that we're looking at on the screen also enables access points to be pointed in a directional fashion. Instead of being mounted flat to a wall, this enables you to articulate the face of the access point so you can hit the desired coverage area, so you can have a better performing network.
Especially those, I'm assuming 6 gigahertz access points that don't have external antennas, which brings me to another question. We've talked a lot about access points, but what if I do need to point an antenna similarly? Can I do that with this?
You most certainly can. So one thing that we've also done is when we designed this thing, we really wanted to make it one solution that could accommodate the majority of applications. So in addition to mounting access points, it has also been a requirement to be able to mount an antenna at a lower level than, say, the ceiling height. So starting on the right, we've enabled the capability to lower an antenna in a tall ceiling environment, leveraging all thread. So this mount right here, this is our swivel mount, but those familiar with our line of antennas should recognize this bolt pattern, this mounting pattern on our swivel mount. This pattern matches our articulating mount for our directional antennas. So this is a scenario, again, for a tall ceiling, gives you the ability to lower the height of a directional antenna.
Awesome.
One other application that we've added to this is the ability to mount a directional antenna mounted to a T-bar clip, mounted to a T-bar overhead, excuse me.
So I can either mount the AP, and we know that clippy thing you've got on the top there is what allows us to simply mount one of the major manufacturers' access points, Aruba, very simply with kind of just a spring mount. But being able to use that in reverse, that's really cool. So now, and that same pattern is a bunch of our directional and some of our Omni antennas as well. So that's quite ingenious. Now I see what VenFlex means. It's a flexible installment application potential. Well, Chris, that's a pretty impressive product set. Is that something that customers can go investigate today?
Yes, sir, it is. It's something that is currently on our website. It is launched. We do have the product in stock as we speak. Now, in terms of the offer, I'm glad you asked that question, Jared. So we have this solution in 4 different configurations. So the first on the page you're looking at is our standard VenFlex mount. That is the versatile mount that we just talked through. The second item on the page is going to be our VenFlex Mount to include one of our T-bar clips. And you made mention of it a moment ago. This is a solution that we designed to accommodate Aruba access points to create a universal mount for either 9/16 or 15/16 inch flat T-bars for Aruba access points. So this is that is set up as a bill of material. So it is, we buy one SKU, you receive both the VenFlex Mount and the T-bar clip. The third on the page is going to include our VenFlex plus the T-bar clip plus our swivel mount, right? So this is the application we looked at a moment ago, which illustrated there is the ability to mount an antenna to a T-bar clip. What this also enables, this configuration would be suitable to leverage an Aruba access point on a vaulted ceiling, or that would require some type of articulation. So, and then finally, our VenFlex and swivel mount, that would be suitable for any other access point that would be that would require a unique mounting application, right? So that would enable articulation for Cisco access points and other access points out there that have integrated directional antennas, or mounted for any integrated access point that you'd need to mount to a vaulted ceiling.
Wow, Chris, that's a lot of information. Of course, that's a very versatile mount. And I guess the claim that it pretty much lets me mount any AP available in North America is true, and I can mount it kind of almost anywhere. So that's pretty flexible. I really appreciate you going through that with us, Chris. I know it's a challenge to get to work with me every day, but I do appreciate all you do with Ventev. Looking forward to some new fun additional products coming out in the near future. Now, you mentioned indoor APs, so
to be continued. We are investigating the option to mount some outdoor access points to this solution as well. So to be continued, and again, more information to follow on that.
Stay tuned. All right. I like a 2-episode podcast. So we'll follow up on that. This has been Ventev Connected Voices. I'm Jared VanAllen. Thank you again, Chris. And I look forward to another over half a decade working together with you.